Greetings and welcome to the computer screen for this month's Louisville area real estate update. We're going to be looking at the month of September 2017, so we are now through 3/4 of 2017. Looking at the summary page here, to keep things as brief as possible on this video, we're going to focus on just a few data points. The first thing that caught my eye was that the number of active listings is rising through the peak selling season, June, July, and August, and yet the number of new listings has been declining. New is this brown or gold line here, and the number of sold listings is this black line. Both of those have been trending down the last few months, whereas the red line, or the active listings, has been trending up. And so we see a divergence here for the first time. These two different sets of trend lines are diverging for the first time in a while, certainly in the last year. That kind of raises my antenna a little bit. This is something different, something of note. So what does this mean? Well, if we scroll the chart down here, we should see the average days on market, or the amount of time the properties are sitting on the market for sale before they go under contract. That number should be rising, because really, in my opinion, you can't have it any other way. If new inventory is not coming on the market, and properties, the number of active listings are rising, that can only mean one thing. The number of available properties that are sitting out there are sitting longer for this divergence to take place. And indeed, if we scroll down, the days on market is subtly starting to rise back up. Now, it's still, to put this in perspective, it is still a very, very strong market. When your average days on market is still less than 60 days in the greater Louisville area, that's still very, very strong. But we're going to keep an eye on this. This is a clear break in trend lines here, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Average price tag still remaining strong over the 200K mark, so this gray line represents the average sold price in Louisville right now. You can see that number right here. Year to date is just over $207,000. Compare that versus the 9 months through September 2016, and there's been still a healthy average price tag increase. We'll see if that changes with this divergence moving forward, but I do find that all to be very interesting. And again, of interest here on this chart, price volume. So this red line is the active active properties that are currently on the market from a volume standpoint. So total dollar amount of properties on the market, that has been rising, okay, because there are more properties, and yet we see this same divergence here, where the black line, the sold sale volume, continues to go down. So when those two things are working, diverging in that manner, one would expect the average price tag in Louisville to decline. This shouldn't be a huge surprise going into late fall, early winter, but I do find it curious that during the peak selling season, the sold volume, or sales volume, actually started to drop off here. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go in the wintertime. Compare that to last winter, when the average price tag kind of bottomed out at 190. It still held fairly consistent over the wintertime. If that does or does not happen again this winter, that'll be an indication of how strong the local real estate market remains. So we'll keep our eyes on that. And to wrap things up here, a note to investors. If we think of investors as hanging around this sub 100K price range here, the number of active listings has declined year to date versus last year a solid double digit across the board pretty much. If we ran some quick math, we'd find that the number of available properties for you to purchase if you're an investor has declined by probably, what, 20% on average. So yeah, this message continues to ring true. If you're out there looking for bargains, your job got 20% harder because there's just simply less inventory available for you to buy. But as we know, if you've been in this country longer than 10 years, the pendulum tends to swing back and forth. Just give it enough time and your day will again shine. But the sellers of the world right now are singing all the way to the bank. So there you have it. I hope you got something out of this month's Louisville market update. We'll do our best to catch you next month. Thanks for watching. Talk soon.